Hello, and welcome to another episode of Court to Court with the Esquire Coach, where we talk about all things college sports, NIL, and the law. Today, we have a very special episode as we are joined by Julie Summer, who is making her second appearance on the show. She is here to talk about a very exciting and worthwhile event that is coming to the Washington, D.C. metro area. Julie is an attorney based in Seattle, Washington. Julie is a recognized expert on name, image, and likeness in college athletics. Julie participated in the Uniform Law Commission NIL effort to develop a national NIL policy in 2021. She is also a former college athlete and was a swimmer at the University of Texas, where she was a member of a NCAA national championship swim team. She is now the executive director of the Drake Group Education Fund and an attorney with her own law firm. Today, she is here to talk about her experiences as an attorney, the current state of college athletics, and her role as the executive director of the Drake Group's Education Fund and the group's upcoming symposium that will be held at Howard University. So, welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Cassandra. Great to be here.
Yeah, you could just start maybe just giving us a little bit more about yourself and the work that you're currently doing.
Sure. As you said, I'm a practicing attorney in Seattle, Washington. I have mainly practiced in civil areas of law, such as trust and estates, contracts, some other areas for several years now. And prior to that, I'm from Ohio, when I was still in Ohio, I had also worked at the athletic compliance office of the Ohio State University. I also had an internship of what was then IMG, International Management Group, which was headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. And even though I went on to practice law here in Seattle in completely unrelated areas, I'd always followed the legal challenges in sports, the Ed O'Bannon case, the UCLA basketball player who discovered his likeness in a video game without permission, his case, Jeremy Bloom, the Olympic skier and football player at UC Boulder, his challenge against the NCAA. And in 2019, when Governor Gavin Newsom signed the first name, image, and likeness (NIL) bill into law in California, that piqued my interest, my previous interest in the area. And I wrote my previous athletic director at the University of Texas about some of the issues and got involved in the Drake Group as a result. And the work they were doing at the time was heavily involved in the NIL space because of what was just beginning to happen and the snowball effect that was coming with that. So I was first a member of the working group with the Drake Group, and then on the board of directors. And then soon after that, the first executive director of what was created, the Drake Group Education Fund.
Wow, yeah. So thank you for that. You mentioned a lot of pivotal moments in college sports that have led to where we are today with Jeremy Bloom and Ed O'Bannon and the passage of the first NIL law. So, what are your thoughts on the current state of college athletics and where it has gone since O'Bannon filed his lawsuit and Jeremy Bloom was having his issues with the NCAA?
Sure. Well, we are, as an understatement, college sports are in a period of significant and rapid change, and they have been the last several years, with the ability for college athletes to profit from their NIL. That has fundamentally altered the financial landscape. It's created both opportunities and challenges. We have the continuous changes in the NIL policy, which is still governed at the state level. And changes within the NCAA and NIL and continuous court decisions. So you have all of the snowballing changes in NIL policy. We have transfer portal, also the ease with which athletes can transfer between institutions has led to increased college athlete movement that impacts stability and also roster management in college sports. That has been driven somewhat by NIL benefits. We have conference realignment. We have covered that a good bit at the Drake Group. The pursuit-driven conference realignment being driven by the pursuit of lucrative media deals by schools and conferences. That has reshaped the competitive landscape, has raised questions about the impact on college athlete health and well-being, which is something that we discuss. And the changing role of the NCAA. The NCAA's authority has continuously been challenged with increased scrutiny over its governance and enforcement. And all of these legal challenges and calls for reform have been shaping the organization's role the last several years. And of course, importantly, athletes' rights. There's definitely an increased focus on athletes' rights, and there have been the last several years with more discussion on healthcare, long-term health concerns. We have all of the concussion cases and policy surrounding health and well-being, and of course, the addition of equity and compensation issues. The second part of your question, the Drake Group's role. The Drake Group, and especially the Drake Group Education Fund, I think we play an important role in advocating for reforms that prioritize academic integrity and athlete well-being, as well as equitable reform. Our focus includes academic integrity, working to ensure that college sports do not compromise the educational mission of higher education. We know that less than 2% of athletes go pro in their sport. We know that generally those careers also don't last very long. So academic integrity, athlete protection. We advocate for policies that protect athletes from exploitation, discrimination, and abuse. Policy advocacy. We engage with policymakers to promote legislation that addresses all of the challenges facing college sports. So we've expanded just beyond the academic integrity piece for sure. And education and research. The Drake Group Education Fund works to provide research and education on the issues surrounding college athletics, which is what we'll do in our upcoming symposium on April 10th. So we're working to ensure that as college sports evolves, that athletes are not being taken advantage of, and that academic integrity of higher education and college athletes obtaining an education is protected. So we really serve as both a defender and an advocate of these issues, and that it doesn't come at, athletic success doesn't come at the expense of athletes' education and well-being.
Yeah, thank you. The Drake Group Education Fund is definitely doing some amazing work. I've enjoyed working with you, as the president of the Drake Group organization as well. You spoke a lot about just the fact that college sports is experiencing a lot of change. I think even the casual observer can see that college sports is experiencing change. So the elephant that's in all the rooms right now is the House settlement. And for those who may not know, the NCAA and the Power Five conferences reached a historic settlement agreement to settle several cases challenging the NCAA as related to NIL, pay for play, and just back Alston Award payments. And upcoming on April 7th, next week, they have the big fairness hearing. Everybody's waiting to see whether or not if the settlement will be approved. So want to know your thoughts on the settlement and if you foresee it being approved.
Sure. As you mentioned, this is it represents a potentially seismic shift in the landscape of college athletics, with the fairness hearing on April 7th on the preliminary proposed settlement. And just to address some key points and that people understand basically what it's looking to do. Is the financial impact of it. The settlement involves the NCAA paying billions in back damages to former and current athletes for past restrictions on NIL earnings. And it also establishes a revenue sharing model, allowing schools to directly compensate athletes. So with the NIL and revenue sharing, it aims to create a framework for how schools can distribute revenue for athletes with potential caps in place. And it also attempts to bring more structure and oversight to what has, I think a lot of people would agree, the often chaotic NIL landscape. There are legal challenges and many objections filed to the settlement, with some athletes opting out to pursue separate lawsuits. And the lawsuits are challenging the settlement terms, seeking greater compensation, also addressing concerns about things like gender equity. There have been statements filed about the impact on what the roster management, the caps on rosters will do for different sports, not just football and basketball. So, really the fairness hearing on April 7th is a crucial step in the process where Judge Wilkin we'll consider whether the settlement is fair, reasonable, and adequate. And I'm curious what you think about it. I don't know really what's going to happen on it, but I think there definitely are concerns. It's definitely a settlement that will potentially alter or would alter the financial relationship between schools and athletes. And whether or not it approved is obviously remains to be seen, but the judge will have to weigh the concerns of the athletes, those who have voiced their concerns, such as coaches, schools, with the agreements that have already been made. I think the fact that a number of athletes have already opted out of the settlement, and are pursuing other legal avenues, that creates a large amount of uncertainty. And I think that there's definitely concerns about the fair adequacy and reasonableness of how it affects not just different athletes and different teams, but also different schools and conferences who weren't even named defendants in the case. We've discussed that at length. So it's a really complex and legal financial agreement with really far-reaching implications. And the April 7th hearing will be pivotal in determining its fate and essentially shaping the future of college sports.
Yeah, whether the settlement will be approved, I don't think anybody really knows, right? For anybody who may have been in tune during the preliminary hearing, it seemed like that they may not have gotten even the preliminary approval because Judge Wilkins sent them back to the drawing board, both parties. They came back and then we got preliminary approval rather quickly. So, I think it's incredibly hard to get a read on what's going to happen. We won't know until we know. But no matter whether it's approved or not, I think either decision is going to have significant ramifications for how college athletics moves forward. Um, so
Many
that's where
people will
we.
be many people will be tuned in that day.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Not too long after that day, on April 7th, the Drake Group Education Fund is hosting its annual symposium on April 10th. The ALISAT National Symposium, Advancing Integrity in College Sports. It will be held at Howard University. This year's symposium is entitled "The Pivot Point: College Athletics at a Crossroads," which we just alluded to. So, could you tell us a little bit about the symposium?
Yes, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, it's April 10th. It's a one-day symposium on the campus of Howard University. It will be inside the Blackburn Center, which is right in the main yard of beautiful campus of Howard University. I know you're a proud alum of the law school there. Yeah, we're excited to have it right on the heels of the April 7th hearing, when so much is going on. There's also the day before our symposium on April 9th, what's been announced as the College Sport Day on the Hill, where I think essentially a lot of the parties to essentially the defense side of the House case will be on the Hill, no doubt pushing for legislation. So it's going to be a really interesting week in Washington, D.C. And anyone can come to the symposium, anyone interested in college sports, members of the public. We have national sports and higher education media attending and being on panels. We have leaders and key influencers from national sports governance organizations, NCAA Division I athletic programs. Of course, we're on the campus of Howard, so we have Howard Athletic Director Carrie Davis opening the day, and other national higher ed and sports-related professional organizations, members of Congress and their staff. We have Congresswoman Lori Trahan on our first panel of the day. I'm sure we'll talk about that. So congressional staff will also be attending. We have higher education faculty, nationally recognized experts in the economic, legal field of college athletics. And also, what we're proud about is having over 100 invited sport management and sports law and other students enrolled in sports-related majors from colleges and university who they are invited to attend at no charge, thanks to the sponsors and donors of the event and of the Drake Group Education Fund. So it's important to have them there. They're the future of college sports, and they represent the people who invest in our event and our organization, our stakeholders that they represent an investment in the development of the future change agents who will be learning about what's happening in real time and from those involved in it. Last year, we had one of the attorneys in the House case on the panel, and it was about a week or so before they announced the preliminary the preliminary settlement. So we've had interesting timing of our symposium. So it's a great event to attend and a great event to support, and a great event to tune into if you can't make it in person.
And so let's get into what some of the panels are about so that those who are interested can know what to expect from the symposium. So the first panel is entitled Charting the New Landscape of College Sports. I know you mentioned Lloyd Trahan will be on the panel. So if you could go a little bit more in depth into what attendees can expect to get from that panel.
Sure. I think this panel is interesting for a few reasons. One, we know it's going to be related to the House settlement. Which will be a really important issue to cover of the day, and all the critical questions arising from that, and the evolving relationship between education, athlete compensation, and the commercialization of college athletics. And of course, they'll examine how these changes impact not just athletes, but schools and smaller institutions who aren't members of the Power Four. And I'm sure discuss alternative models for college athletics. So that particular panel will be moderated by Jim Trotter, who we're really excited to have. He's an award-winning journalist, author, and lecturer. He has spent nearly 3 decades covering the NFL, and even though he's an NFL writer, he knows a lot about college sports. He's excited to do this. He's a big women's basketball fan. He's a fantastic guy, and he actually has recently created a endowed scholarship for journalism students at Howard in the wake of a legal settlement with the NFL. So he'll have interesting perspective. He's a very smart, thoughtful guy. And we have, of course, the Honorable Lori Trahan, Congresswoman from the 3rd District of Massachusetts. She's been committed to this issue for several years now. And she was a Division I volleyball player herself at Georgetown. And she has really beat the drum of the issues of gender equity and how not just over the years, the enforcement or lack thereof of Title IX, but also how this potential settlement will affect that. And of course, how NIL has also evolved over a number of years, and how well women athletes have been supported in all of those changes. So she'll be really interesting to listen to on that. We also have Bob Philp, who is head of athlete relations at the new company, Pathway Sports and Entertainment. Bob brings a wealth of experience working at sports agencies, including CAA Sports and Rock Nation. He is, of course, now working in the space of the video game agreements and football players. And this is a brand new company. So this is something we've seen a lot in this space with NIL companies and different entities emerging. So it'll be interesting to hear Bob's take on what they're working on and what he sees, and his take on basically how it affects the work that they're doing. Ross Dellinger, we're excited to have. He has covered these issues tirelessly for Yahoo Sports, and prior to that, Sports Illustrated. He knows a lot, not just about college football that he covers, but everything that he's been writing about. He's been one of the voices that people really turn to learn about not just the transformation of college athletics, but pretty much everything NIL, things like the college football playoff, implications on college athletics, the House settlement, conference realignment, pretty much everything you can imagine in college athletics policy. Ross has covered, and he covers a lot. He's located on the Hill, so he covers a lot of what's happening on the Hill. So I'm sure he'll have a lot to say, and also provide good background on the issues. So it'll be an interesting panel with not just Jim moderating, but having the congressional side of it with Congresswoman Trahan, the business side of it with Bob Philp, and Ross, who knows everything college athletics and writes on it.
Yeah, I follow Ross for all things college sports. It's funny that you say that college football is what he covers because he truly covers everything related to college athletics. So yeah, definitely be excited to have the opportunity to actually meet him in person. So the second panel is entitled "New Era, New Rules: Changing the Academic Playbook." So could you tell us a little bit about that panel and what attendees can expect to gain from it?
Sure. I think this is a new panel we have. I think this is an interesting one and a conversation that we should all be having. That's what we like to do at the Drake Group is hold difficult conversations. But college athletes have always been challenged with time management and even keeping up with school, in addition to pursuing their sport, with issues like evolving conference realignments. We have some college athletes who are traveling coast to coast. They're away from school for more than 10 days at a time, and this is not just championship season, but the middle of the season. So these are serious, ever increasing demands on the time and energy of college athletes. So it's covering the fact that these are full-time enrolled athletes, students who are trying to pursue not just their academic degree progress, but maintain their academic eligibility requirements. Not an easy thing to do, and it's getting, I think, increasingly difficult. So this panel will explore alternative academic models, including post-eligibility academic options, vocational training, apprenticeships, and trades. I mean, that's a conversation that's happening in general in the higher education realm. So I think it's important that we have it within college athletics as well. And that panel will be moderated by Ava Wallace of the Washington Post. She has covered a plethora of sports, tennis. She was at the Paris Olympics. She covers the WNBA, and she's also covered college sports as well. So we're excited to have Ava from the Washington Post moderating. The panel will be consist of Ron Moses, who is a senior associate athletic director, or AD, at Old Dominion University. And he knows a lot about academic advising, compliance programs, and supervision of athletic programs and college athlete welfare. So I think he'll have a lot to say. We actually recently had him on one of our webinars, and he was really interesting to listen to. So we're excited to have Ron on that panel. Of course, we have our friend, Dave Ridpath. He is a professor of sports business at Ohio University and their well-known sport management program at the OU campus in Athens. And Dave has a lot of experience in college sports. He's written a couple books on his experiences in college sports, which are really interesting. And he talks a lot about this issue, the crisis of education, as it relates to college sports as well. And he has, I know, a lot to say on this topic, so he'll be interesting to listen to. And we have the Venerable Dr. Kenneth Schreier from the University of Pennsylvania. And Ken has a lot of experience. He has been an endowed full professor at Wharton. He has written several books, several award-winning books. He's an author, attorney, consultant, educator. Ken has covered it all. So I know he'll be really interesting to listen to on this panel and have a lot to add.
Yep, just got a wealth of knowledge for the second panel as well. So the third panel, which I'm really interested in, it's entitled "The Price of Progress: Navigating the New Employment Landscape." And I'm interested because using the word employment in college athletics in some circles is not exactly what people want to hear. So could you please give us a little bit about that panel?
Sure. Well, before we jump to that, I just want to touch on our award winners too.
Sure.
So just real quick, we're giving out 3 awards this year. We've got the National Public Service Award, where we're honoring Congressman Robert Scott and Congresswoman Susan Bonamici, who have worked, during this wild time of evolving college athletics with NIL, House case, conference realignment. They have, done some important work with regards to the Government Accountability Office conducting an audit of the Department of Education and the Office for Civil Rights, which has been the office that is responsible for enforcement of Title IX athletics enforcement. And of course, that's going to be become even more of an interesting issue with everything that's happening within the Department of Education and the current administration. So they did some important work in the last couple of years on this, and so we're honoring their efforts for highlighting that and the report that was produced by the GAO as a result of their work. We are also honoring Women X for the 2025 Making a Difference Award with Tiffany Bullock and Mary Chiampa, founders of Women X, which is a nonprofit organization empowering women through education. And they've done not just a lot of work in college athletics, but a lot of work with young women on college campuses. And interesting little tidbit about them is Mary, she is in Boston, and she basically helped market the Beanpot, which is the big collegiate women's hockey game tournament in Boston. And she helped grow the record-breaking attendees from 1,700 attendees to 10,633 when she first started working on it, and just this year, over 13,200 attendees to the Beanpot. So she's a perfect example of one person working on that as well. And of course, Tiffany does a lot of work with her on Women X. It shows what happens when you support and market women. We know there's a market for it. So they're proving that with the work that they do with Women X, and we're excited to honor that. We also have 3 talented, thoughtful young journalists from the University of Pennsylvania for their work that they've done on an investigative story that they did. That is Walter Carnathan, Vivian Yao, and Sean McCown. And Sean will be there to accept the award for them. And it really highlights the importance of how important student journalism is and the brave work that they do that not a lot of established, commercial journalists do or may be able to do in their work in terms of a lot of the stories that don't get reported. And so it'll be interesting to hear what Sean has to say. They were on a recent webinar that we had honoring their work, which is also really interesting to listen to. And you can find that on our Drake Group Education Fund website. So it'll be great to honor that at our symposium. I think you went on to panel 3, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And is entitled The Price of Progress, Navigating the New Employment Landscape.
The Price of Progress, the changing economics, the impact of diversity. We actually held a webinar on a similar topic less than a year ago, and it attracted a lot of viewers. So I think it's important to acknowledge that even without the changing economic landscape the last several years, that hiring and compensation of women and people of color in coaching and administrative roles is perhaps even more of an issue. So this panel will examine that and acknowledge the data. The NCAA keeps really good data on this. So we'll examine that current data on hiring, compensation, and representation of women coaches as well in women's sports and men's sports. We have Emily Olson of The Athletic, which is owned by the New York Times, moderating that. And she's done, much like Ava, a lot of work in professional. She does soccer, basically, women's game around the world, and has been a reporter She's covered the ACC and Big Ten, so she has a lot of collegiate experience, and she's excited to moderate this panel. This panel includes also some interesting people on the topic. Kyle Adams, he was deputy director of athletics at Delaware State. He also has his own business. It's Bigger Than the Ball and podcast. He has an interesting story where he basically himself curated a landmark event called Her Story Cannot Be Erased, celebrating the historic achievements of the 1982 Cheney State Lady Wolves, the first and only HBCU team to compete in the NCAA Division I National Championship game. And as a result of that, being inducted in the Hall of Fame. So he's done a lot of great work. Ingrid Wicker McCree, who's also been in our previous programming. She was the director of athletics at North Carolina Central University, one of the longest tenured athletic directors in NCCU history from 2008 to 2022. She has a lot of achievements and championships as a coach as well that she brings to the table. So she was inducted in the NCCU Athletic Hall of Fame, the George Washington University Hall of Fame, and also later selected for the CIA John McClendon Hall of Fame in 2016. So she will have a lot to add, and we're also excited to have Marion Washington, who was the first. Marion has many firsts. She was the first Black woman coach to coach a Division I women's basketball program at a predominantly white institution. That's the University of Kansas. She was head women's basketball coach there from 1973 to 2004. And she was women's athletic director from 1974 to 1979. She was also the first Black female to coach at the Olympic level. She has many firsts, many accolades, and she also wrote a book recently called "Fierce: My Fighting for Nothing Less," which is basically her autobiography. So she will be really interesting to listen to, and has again a lot of experience on that to add on that topic.
That sounds like there's going to be a really great panel. So I think this may be the first time that the symposium will include a fireside chat. Right, this it's going to be a fireside chat addressing the House settlement, Title IX, and Olympic sports. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. So of course, honing in on the House settlement, getting back to that question of fair, adequate, and reasonable. We've talked a lot about it at the Drake Group and the Drake Group Education Fund, the impact on women's sports, on Olympic sports, and how this evolving legal and economic framework impacts both gender equity and other sports. So we know what was happening with NIL. We know that the settlement terms of the House case and the distribution of revenue is going to be a big issue on the gender equity front. And indeed, a lot of the objections have centered on that particular issue. So we have, I will be interviewing a really great litigator, Lori Bullock. She's basically been a preeminent litigator in the area of Title IX athletics for several years now. And she has been in the trenches, it's safe to say. This will be an interesting chat to sort of cover issues at a high level because Lori knows so much about the intricacies of Title IX compliance and what she has to basically address in her legal cases with institutions and knows the NCAA bylaws so well. So she's a fascinating person to talk to about the issues. She's an incredible resource, and we're really happy to host Lori on this panel to have someone who's really, truly such an expert address not just what she has encountered in Title IX cases leading up to the current landscape, but what are the implications of the House settlement in the future? on women's athletics. So it's a fascinating time, and it's she's, I think, perfect person to discuss these issues with, and I think it will educate people a lot on that.
Sounds great. It sounds like this symposium will be just a wealth of information and networking opportunities for anybody who's interested in college athletics and just athletics and journalism in general.
We
So,
forgot panel three though. The Beyond the Game, the prioritizing college athlete mental and physical health, which, of course, with all the conference realignments we've already discussed, and the increased challenges, name it, NIL commitments, travel commitments, academic commitments. That'll be moderated by David Steele of Law 360. He writes on both legal and legislative matters for that website. And that will include Stephanie Coakley from Temple University. She's a senior associate athletic director in mental health, wellness, and performance. So she has a lot of great experience in that area and will be fantastic to have on that panel. Jen Fry, who's on our board, she's a sports geographer, which you don't come across too often. Speaker and educator. She works with college athletes and teams regularly, Division I teams on team dynamics and improved communication. So she really sees it firsthand as well in her work. And obviously, being a sports geographer, knows the implications of conference realignment. Laura Lewis, who is the associate director in charge of Olympic sports at First Point USA of the UK. She has a lot of experience also being a Division I athlete and working with both not just the college athlete realm, but the national team realm, and works in health and human performance. So I'm sure she'll have a lot to add to that panel.
yeah, it sounds like it's going to be an awesome panel with a lot of information for the attendees, as does the overall event. So, could you tell us again where people may be able to purchase tickets and remind students of how they can get a complimentary ticket?
Absolutely. You can go straight to the Drake Group Education Fund website at www.thedrakegroupeducationfund.org. It's right on the front of the website. And it's really intuitive. You get a ticket to attend, and students can attend for free. So you simply apply for a free student ticket, basically providing your name and email through the site, and you will be provided a seat at the symposium. And of course, we can direct you if you need. Feel free to email me directly at jsummer, SOMMER, at realizingthepromise.org. And also can reach out to you, right, Cassandra?
Definitely,
So
and I will put all of these links that she's referring to in the show notes as well.
great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we hope to have a lot of people there.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a worthwhile experience. I think I've been attending the Drake Group Symposium since 2022, and each time I leave with a wealth of information and many connections made as far as networking.
That's right. That's important
Yeah.
too. And there'll be a little cocktail hour at 4 o'clock when the panels end.
So, lastly, if you could just tell us how people can follow you. I know you gave your email, but if you want to share some of your social media handles or with people so that they can learn how to connect with you and follow your work.
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn. I've been a little busy with the symposium. I need to catch up on my posting there. But we have both our Drake Group Education Fund LinkedIn, which has been active. My personal LinkedIn, Julie Summer, JULIESOMMER. I'm also on Twitter at Julie R. Summer, or I'm sorry, what used to be Twitter on X. And also on Instagram at Julie_R_Summer, SOMMER. And we post a lot of our what's happening with the Education Fund on not just our Drake Group Education Fund pages on those same platforms, but also I'll post things too. And we hope that you follow us and stay up to date on all the programming that we have.
Again, Julie, I would like to thank you for coming onto the show and talking about the symposium, which again, everybody is on April 10th at Howard University. Be sure to register to go. This will conclude this episode of Court to Court. See you guys next time.